Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Houston Sports Talk back in the video today. And today the Houston Texans crushed the Baltimore Ravens 44-10 to improve to 2-3 and win their second game in a row and get their first road win of the 2025 season. Before today, the Houston Texans had only got 19 points in their two road games, and they had no touchdowns in the first half of their road games either. Their first game against the Rams, they had no touchdowns, and then the only road touchdown of the season they've got was a third or fourth quarter 50-yard touchdown pass to Nico Collins against the Jags. And you can also look at the fact that this offense in 3 games against the Baltimore Ravens have no offensive touchdowns in the C.J. Stroud era. But that was a total flip for this offense today. They had only had 21 points in 3 games and only 12 points of offense in 3 games with C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans against this Ravens team. But today they put up 44 points of offense. Now, yes, the Ravens are absolutely stacked with injuries, and they are missing a lot of Pro Bowl guys on defense and on offense with Lamar Jackson. But this offense was still amazing today, and they put up a great performance. Thought last week was good. I think putting up 20 points in the fourth quarter last week definitely, makes a momentum switch for this Texans team going into this week, putting up 44 points. The Texans in their last 5 quarters now have a total of 64 points. Let's go over the scoring summary. The Texans got on the board first, and after that, we did not see the Texans look back. It was a Xavier Hutchinson 5-yard touchdown reception from C.J. Stroud, and that was Hutchinson's first touchdown reception of his career. The Ravens made a field goal to make it 7-3 after that. Kaimi made a 50-yarder to make it 10-3. Then C.J. Stroud connected with Nico Collins for the 3rd time this year for a touchdown, made it 17-3. And then right before the half, how about not just one touchdown for Hutchinson today, a second one. Stroud connects for his 3rd touchdown of the half in the first half to Xavier Hutchinson, 24-3 at halftime. Then it continued to be all Texans in the second half. Nick Chubb had a 27-yard touchdown run. Kaimi Fairbairn had a 57-yard field goal. And then the Ravens scored their only touchdown of the day with Derrick Henry getting a 1-yard touchdown run. C.J. Stroud connected with Jalen Knoll for his first ever touchdown reception. Last week it was Jaden Higgins getting his first ever touchdown. This week it's Jalen Knoll. And the Houston Texans wrapped up their scoring with a 34-yard field goal for Kaimi Fairbairn. This is the most ever points scored in the DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud era. Last year, the Houston Texans put up 41 in New England, and they had 39 in against the Bucs in Houston in C.J. Stroud's rookie year. 44 points is the most the Houston Texans and C.J. Stroud have ever put up in their 2 years and a quarter of this season. So, let's go over some stats. C.J. Stroud today, 23 for 27, 4 passing touchdowns, 244 passing yards. Stroud entered the day with 4 passing touchdowns. He matches that total of 4 today. Cooper Rush had 179 passing yards, 14 for 20, and 3 picks. I find it interesting that the Ravens were down the entire ball game, but somehow still only made 20 throws. I think that's mainly because the Texans killed the Ravens in time of possession in this one. Nick Chubb had 61 rushing yards and 11 carries, while meanwhile the Texans held Derrick Henry for 15 carries and 33 rushing yards. The Texans have dominated Henry since DeMeco Ryans took over as the head coach, as now Henry has played, I think it is now, this was his 6th game playing the Texans since DeMeco Ryans took over, and he has got a total of 70 carries and 330 rushing yards in his time against. Well, no, actually it's 230 rushing yards and 70 carries against the Texans since DeMeco Ryans has taken over as the Texans head coach. Derrick Henry used to be able to get 20 carries against the Texans and get 200 rushing yards before DeMeco Ryans took over. Now he can get 70 and barely gets to 250. The Texans were led in receiving yards by Christian Kirk, who had 4 receptions and 64 receiving yards. He had a big play downfield for the Texans in the second half. The Texans actually, their leader in sacks was only 1 today. That's surprising. Mario Edwards had 1, but there were a lot of other sacks for the Texans today. And E.J. Speed was their leader in tackles with 6. Going over some other stats real quick, Davis Mills got some of his first run of the season this year, going 2 for 4 with 23 passing yards. The Texans' other running today, 1 carry and 30 rushing yards for C.J. Stroud. Woody Marks had 7 carries and 24 rushing yards. I think that was probably one of the only disappointing things of the Houston Texans' day, is not getting a guy like Woody Marks more involved into the offense after the performance he had last week against Tennessee. Dameon Pierce got some run at the end of the game with 7 carries and 21 rushing yards. The Texans even got British Brooks involved as well with 2 carries and 15 rushing yards. I liked how the Texans were going with some, handoffs to the fullback. Schultz had 5 receptions and 60 receiving yards. Collins had 4, 52, and 1. Jaden Higgins had 4 receptions and 32 receiving yards. Brendan Bates had 2 receptions and 23 receiving yards. Hutchinson with his 3, 18, and 2 touchdowns. And even Knoll had 2 catches for 13 yards and 1 touchdown. Before the game, I said that the Houston Texans need to spread the ball around, get more guys involved, and just get really everybody involved. And that's what the Texans did today. The Texans were crazy with interceptions today. Jalen Petrie had 2, 20 yards returned, and Kamari Lassiter even had a late interception. And the Texans only had one sack today, and that was by Mario Edwards Jr. But this was still a great win for the Texans. I think that the vibe is different from this team from now than it was 2 weeks ago. The Houston Texans 2 weeks ago were 0-3, and there was no good feelings about this football team. But now, in the last 2 weeks, the Houston Texans have outscored their opponents. They've outscored their opponents in the last 2 games 70-10, and they have not trailed at all in these last 2 games. Now you get a week off after these 2 last hard performances by this team. They get the bye, and then you've got Monday Night Football in Seattle. So, but I think that the vibe is way different from this team right now. You guys, let me know your thoughts on this 44-10 win for the Houston Texans in the comment section, and peace out.